Well, hello, everybody, and welcome out to your Monday night show. We've got John, we've got myself, and we've got MJ, who will start talking when he decides how to stop his computer from making weird noises that blow out our eardrums.
Yeah,
Yay.
so there's this thing called multiple tabs, and if you don't pay attention to how many you have open, there's
tabs.
one, like especially when you're running two screens, and there's one over here that you didn't even realize was open. They just kind of just do their thing, you know.
Yeah, it's all good. But we do want to thank everybody for taking time out of their Monday night to join us. If you're checking in from Marquee and you're doing this show and you got some, got ready and you're all set for tomorrow and the way things are going to kick off, but you didn't feel like joining some of the parties that we're going tonight, and we're going to give you like some sort of a party. Well, okay, anyway, it's going to be some fun time. We've got an hour of content. Maybe. So with that note, I do want to thank
40.
everybody for taking some time. 45 minutes.
At least 40.
I can talk that long about absolutely nothing. So.
You usually do.
and most of the time.
And there's our show, yes.
But no, I do appreciate everybody for checking in. It's been kind of interesting seeing the Facebook feeds today and, and all the people that were traveling and from the standpoint of, oh my gosh, we have a show again. Like the Midwest DJ Live, happened a month or two ago now. And that was kind of like the soft worm opening where you saw some people traveling. And now at least my feed, it was just everybody. Oh, I'm in this airport. Or I'm driving across country. I'm, whatever. So very excited for you guys that are being able to experience that live. And for the rest of us, well, we're going to hang out and have some fun tonight.
And Matt is joining us tonight. Thank you for joining us, Matt, on I-80 on the way to Marquee. So headed up the freeway.
Keep your eyes on the road, son. But thank you for listening.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, how is that like kind of a nice segue into what our topic's about? The fact that that's like the first thing in our industry that kind of happened, as we're talking about shows getting back to normal, what does it look like now? That's the first time out for some people in, a year and a half.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the last time we got together was February of 2020. So it's going to be, there might be for a few seconds, there's going to be that uneasiness because we're not used to whatever it is. At the wedding this past weekend, the best man made a statement in his toast that, we're learning how to be social people once again and how to interact face to face. And there's the level of that discussion or that thought process that really is true, that people were more than happy to go and sit in their little bubbles, even though that it wasn't required. They go and this group sat there, this group, and some people mingled, but we, in essence, need to unlearn some of the things we've learned over the last year.
Prior to that, I was the socially awkward person. During the lockdown, I was the cool guy. I was it. Now I'm going back to being awkward again.
You've been a role model for everybody.
I had it so good for just that little bit.
Oh, man. Everyone's like, gosh, if we could only be like MJ, we'd be...
No, I don't think anybody
said that. No one said... Okay.
No,
okay well,
I don't think they went quite that far.
We love them all.
Maybe I wish I could be as comfortable being locked down as he is.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's even to the point now about shaking someone's hand. Do you fist bump, elbow bump, handshake, hug? I mean, you're just like.
Around here, at the car dealership, and I was getting the car work done or wherever, the handshakes. I was wondering if those were going to become a thing in the past, and they've come back, and people are still doing that, and people walk out of the bathroom and their hands are wet and they're still shaking hands. So there's all this good stuff that we enjoyed with handshakes that are back. Yay!
I always, if it's somebody that didn't just come out of the bathroom, I'm more than willing to like shake hand. But I've had some people where I've reached out and they go to give me the fist bump, and I'm like, I'm good. Yep, sure. If you don't want to shake hand, we can do fist bump.
I fist bump 24/7.
That's so you kiss the hand kind of thing, isn't it?
Oh, forget that.
I
did hug someone.
It
that
isn't?
blew me away that I was willing to hug someone, so that was a big deal.
Okay.
I'm giving you a virtual hug. Oh,
we got Karen checking in from Canada.
Yeah, thanks for joining us tonight, Karen. What what would MJ do? Okay, I got it.
No one says that.
Yeah.
They would say something like, why does MJ do that? Maybe you have an acronym for that, or what causes him to act that way, or does he remember what the blunt object was that hit him in the head that causes him to act this way?
I think it was your brain got swirled around in all those spins that you did back when you're doing your dance team stuff.
Possibly that and the back spins when I was younger and the head spin.
The ponytail hitting you in the side of the face.
No, the motorcycle wrecks. I mean, I had one this year I didn't talk about, so we're going to keep going on with that. We don't have to talk about that wreck that I got on film.
So yeah, for tonight's topic, we wanted to talk a little bit about how as we've been out doing events, and we've now each have a number of events under our belts here for this 2021, how are things different? Are they the same? How have things changed? What have we noticed? And that was really wanted to talk about tonight. And I wanted to have you guys also, those of you who've been out doing shows, share a little bit about what you're observing from your crowds, differences, comparing and contrasting, audience reactions, your audience makeup. There's just a lot of little variables that have shown their face as differences from 2019 to today. So, that's what we want to kind of dig into tonight.
Awesome.
Yeah, the people now, for me at least, are saying you suck from their seats as opposed to coming right up to me and yelling it in my face. So that's the difference.
Well, see, and what's really convenient is then you can have that request thing down there, so then they can scan the QR code. The instant DJ request, they can scan the QR code and they can say in the the little note, so you suck. Oh, by the way, play country. So, you got that going.
I would say, I'm sorry I didn't get your message.
No, sorry. For the person who requested country, I didn't get your message. Sorry.
And the person who did, yeah, exactly. For me, I was telling John a little about it's at least right now, because like for what I do in the clubs and bars, we don't have a on season, off season, like the wedding industry in a lot of mobile. You have in season, out of season stuff. We're pretty much steady all the time. But what I have noticed is there does seem to be a few less people that are coming out. There are still people. And this is what somebody said over the weekend. I was talking to another friend of mine who was out DJing. He said, now that people are able to go on vacation, that's why we're having a few less people, because people are going on vacation.
Yes.
And they're actually going on vacation leaves them a little less expendable cash to go out and drink or go to the casino or something like that. So that could be a part of why I'm seeing a few less, just simply because people are taking opportunities to actually do something, so that could be the difference that I see, at least. And I'm guessing that probably is going to hit any summer parties that you guys do the same sort of way. Vacations, people are finally like, can't make your wedding because I actually can go to vacation or something,
I think that definitely is hitting as one of the factors, because I've talked to some people around locally here who usually would take maybe a week off for spring break in this, sometime at March time. Well, now they're planning a 2-week trip in the summer, and they've never planned a big trip in the summer. So now they're going to go. And those things are certainly going to add up, that they have to put the money to an expenditure like that. That's just not a $500 weekend type trip. That's a $600 trip.
You can tell he has kids, because for me it would be whatever gas mileage it takes me to get there and back in granola bars. Sleep in the truck, whatever, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
But yeah, it's interesting, Dan. I mean, I think you've probably hit quite a few. I'm guessing you've hit a few events where. What are you seeing in general? Talk to us.
So it's very interesting, kind of the dynamics between school dances and weddings. So the first thing that came to mind was, how are things different? One thing I noticed was with the prom that I did this year, when I've done proms before, you have the group that comes, sometimes they come a little bit late. They made their appearance, they, stayed for court, and then they left and they go to their after parties or wherever it is. What I found interesting was that this year that didn't happen. Like, they still kind of came a little bit late, nobody was there like right at the get-go. But when it came to the end, I had them there until like the last 15, 20 minutes.
Wow.
And even at that, like, even when it got time to the end, there was still like a good chunk that left when I played that last song, and then they left. So what I found was, at least it seems like, the younger generation, the school generation, they didn't have prom last year in most cases. At least local, there was no homecoming dance. There was no dances throughout the year. There's no Valentine dance. There was no dances for them. And so as a result, they're like, oh my gosh, we can go to one. We've been listening to our own music for the last year and a half. We don't need to go and hang out at the river lot and listen to our phones. We can do something at the dance. So I really think that led itself a lot to why they stuck around. I mean, and they were having a great time, but even more so like than what they would have normally. Like I could have played that exact same set with that same type of energy and everything else 2 years ago before everything happened. And as soon as court was done, they would have been out the door. And this time they seem to stick around.
I want to ask a question about that. When they would leave before, are you talking about them going to their own little private parties at someone's house or out in the field or something like that? Or
I'm going to assume yes.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty common around here because we're right along the river. So there's a lot of river lots.
How can those type of things be affected by what we went through as opposed to them just wanting to stick around? Could there be less opportunity for that? I'm trying to figure the science of why they...
I don't think those opportunities were any less. I think they're there just as much as they ever were before. I think it really came down to they wanted to stick around.
They wanted to be around other people.
Dan, I want to throw this in there is that one of the things we saw from a lot of the juniors and seniors in the local area is they were having, since the school wasn't doing anything, there weren't athletics going on. They were having parties every Friday and Saturday and sometimes throughout the week last summer and throughout the school year. So I wonder if it became that those parties just became been there, done that. I mean, this spring there were numerous parties that some kids were having, and typically one gal, her parties back a while ago would have had 150 kids. She had 3 show up, and it's not because of kids getting in trouble or anything. It's just we've been there, done that.
Wow.
So I wonder if that feeds into that.
Wow.
Got to do something different than we've always done.
Would you ever have thought that this would be a problem 5 years ago?
No. And who says it was a problem? But no. So that was the first thing that I noticed when it came to the school dances. Completely different vibe. And what's kind of interesting, I mean, the tent, or we did it in a tent on the football field at the school. We're not talking like it was some brand, spanking new or, lavish, ballroom. It was a tent on the school's football field. Mm-hmm. And now they made it look nice and everything, don't get me wrong, but it was definitely different than a lot of times of what we would have expected too.
So now we had 2 proms that we did this spring. One, they started with the masks, and we kind of talked about this one, but that was one where they left to go to their parties, and there was only a handful of kids left over, and it was the same timing as they would have had in the past. The other prom, they didn't. It was a much smaller turnout. It was only it was the fun kids. They stayed right to the end. Beginning to end. They were there. They had a great time. They were the ones that always danced, and they were the ones that would cheer at every song, and really makes it so 80 of those students there is better than 300 of the other ones where they all of a sudden go, we don't like this song. So we saw to an extent both ways there. The same and then something completely different, where the kids were where were all the other kids? We have no idea.
Well, and another thing that, like, for the one that I had, it was only seniors, and then the junior class that put on the prom. So for a lot of the schools locally, the junior class is the one who puts on the prom.
Yep, same.
And then seniors are invited, type of thing. It's their, okay. The rule this year, because they were trying to cut down on any potential problems, it was only seniors, unless you're on the prom committee. So they weren't there. So this is story. Like they have.
Down in Australia, sickness of summer. Here's for some of those people without gigs. What can we tell them that would prepare them for what we've seen maybe coming their way somehow? Like whether it be less equipment, more equipment, different equipment. I know the conversation we had prior to coming on the air, I think would have something to do with that. Or what do you guys have to say about that?
I think.
I think it's a little. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was going to say, jumping up. This will jump us up to DJ Storm there. Talking about size of so far, have been much smaller. You know, the size of the events has gone down. So for those of us who use 100 to 100 and a quarter, and you can have a good time with it, and not have a large, cheaper.
Yeah, see, much of a drop. Now, let me kind of back us off a little bit. Spring, like early spring, the first weekend or two in May, slightly different story. Just because it was before things are really starting to open. So there was kind of that different situation. But since then, since like probably the third week of May on, it's been normal size for me. Now, keep in mind, my normals are typically around 150. So I'm not seeing where 300 suddenly had to become 150, but 150 stayed at 150.
Right.
So I think that's kind of interesting. I do have one coming up, which this is going to be like my largest one I've had in years. I have one coming up in September that's supposed to be 250. And they're expecting it. So indoor, we'll see.
Right?
What's that?
50 indoor, not 250 outdoor.
Yeah, 250 indoor. Yeah, that's the other thing is that it's not just a large one; it is a large one indoor. Yeah. So,
and one of the larger event, why I've been hearing that being less popular, and even a couple of our DJNTV content creators have talked of this, is that people are. It seems that they're being more cognizant of money when it comes to the events. That has been a discussion. That's why some of the people that got married last summer, that weddings that we were going to be doing last year, get to the point where they're like, we could spend this $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 to put a party on, or we could just put a down payment on a house.
I've said this before, and I always make the wedding people angry when I say this, but I will tell any bride and groom, spend the money on a house. Get your life started before you spend it on a day, because you're getting ready as opposed to a wedding day and a marriage. They're two different things. And the wedding is, no, let them spend the money however they want to spend the money, which initially means that I want to make money as a DJ.
Oh yeah.
But I would tell anybody there's a better investment than spending $10,000 on a party or more. What is the average right now?
Up in our neck of the woods, you're probably not touching a wedding with catered or with food being brought in for less than 30,000.
So I thought, yeah,
it's going to be somewhere in that 25 to 30 minimum.
So let's take that down a bit. How can someone who during lockdown started a relationship and they plan on getting married as we're coming forward, how can they approach us, and how should we approach them in the sense of, we can still do this nice when they, like you said, some of them are hedging their bets when it comes to how much they spend. Mm-hmm. How can you guys, like I said again, because it's not for me, so I'm looking at it from their point of view. Look at it from both points of view. How can we talk them into having a nice wedding, but also understand that they're not going to spend, that they don't want to spend as much as they used to, and still keep ourselves employed? Well,
I would quickly say, and this is because, we're in this end of the industry, so we're always going to look at the other ones. But I really don't care who you are. I'd be willing to bet that any wedding that we go to, as players, the caterer is charging way more than anything we're going to,
and probably more than they did before, I'm guessing too.
Well, I'm not even going to go to that part. Yeah. I mean, you're probably 100% right on that, but I'm not even going to include that for a moment. Yeah. Like, even if you're a $5,000 DJ, you have $20 a plate. It doesn't take much before many people before they're charging more than you are. They're not making that, but that's what it's being charged. So I think where, kind of John is talking about, where the numbers are coming down, that's going to be the fastest and quickest way that they're going to be able to cut corners and still have everything nice. In the same respect, I mean, you think about it, when you're really making your list of who's going to come to the wedding, my cousin, who I have only seen once every 4 years when they finally decide to show up at family reunion, but I got to invite them because I got to invite all the family. oh wait, you know what? Now I don't have to, and I can blame it on XYZ, so I don't actually invite them. And so it becomes an easier way for them to save that money, and it doesn't affect us at all. Again, maybe that's my twisted look at it, but I would see them cutting people that don't matter, for lack of better terms, over cutting services that helps their day become
special, memorable, etc.
Right.
Cool.
But there's a lot of discussion going on with the different wedding magazines out there, and they're making the national news talking about how the micro weddings and those smaller wedding events, and I saw one, I was reading one this past weekend where they were defining a wedding up to 100 people as a micro wedding, which I thought was a little high, you know.
Would consider a micro wedding?
I would be, if you're getting into that 25 to 40 would be probably closer, you know, and more to 100 people. That what the micro wedding is, 100 people or less is what they were defining it as, and it's like, well,
a broad range. I would agree too.
Yeah, I just thought that was a little high. But the idea behind it is that very much what Dan was saying is that they're looking at saying, okay, I want to have this experience at this winery, and I want to have it so that when we say I do, we're going to be right here in front of this, and then once that's done, we're going to go over here and do this, and we're going to do that, and then we're going to take the horses, and we're going to go and do that, and so they want this experience, but yet that you can't have 400 people there and be able to afford the experience of all the things. So, there was the last wedding was recorded as far as it was streamed, and I think the one before that was also streamed. That they were having family members who couldn't make it or didn't want to make it because of whatever. They went that route, and it could be becoming more of a thing that. Yeah, we could do the church thing, although I don't know. I haven't had many in the church that are coming up even. We could do that, but instead let's do this really cool thing and have some fun with it for our immediate friends and family.
I wonder if we'll see some more boutique, maybe, I don't know what, smaller type venues suddenly pop up, and not to do this in a long term. You mentioned the winery, and it reminded me, so near us, it's about an hour and a half north of where I'm at, is the Finger Lakes of New York, where there's a lot of wineries like crazy up there. And one of them had posted on Facebook today where they said they can do weddings up to 50 people. So and here's a beautiful site. It's a beautiful grounds. I've been to the winery, a couple different times to see the different things that they have. It would be a perfect opportunity for you to be able to do something like that and fit into a smaller budget because it's only 50 people. Smaller costs, we'll say, maybe not budget, but smaller costs. So, I could see some more venues that maybe in the past would have been like, you know what, we can only do 50 people. We're not going to bother messing with weddings, to go, hey, we can do up to 50 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Come see us.
And I think intimate kind of memorable, not just an event, but an experience with the people that you invited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think here's another spot that's going to be that way is some people up in Alexandria who have really nice lake homes are renting out their backyards. That you can have your reception in our backyard on the lake. I think a couple of them have figured it out to the point of that, two outhouses here, the nice outhouses, and you can put a tent there, and you can do this and that and the other thing, and it's going to cost you whatever, and there's your party. So that could definitely be the case. I just kind of saw the ad and thought, well, somebody must have bought a house and wants to make some money, but you might be hitting that on the head, Dan, is that there's people who are like, okay, let's just see if we can make a little money on this trend for the next couple of years.
And for a lot of those places, they're not really having to do anything special. You know what I mean? Like some, like in the instance of somebody's house, okay, some extra hoops you definitely have to jump through. But if it's a place where they have an established business and they have beautiful grounds, you have most of the things that you're going to need to cover a lot of those to begin with. And so now it makes it in that different light, if you will.
So Saturday we did our wedding on Friday this past week. Saturday we went by and we drove through 4 communities that have what would have been larger wedding venues that could have handled 200 plus, between 200 and 500. None of them had a wedding Saturday. So you're talking about the 3rd Saturday in June or whatever it was. That should be prime, busy time. But because of, first off, they're larger venues. Secondly, is that they're not at the backyard. So there's a higher cost to doing them.
I can't imagine that venue, like, it's looking at itself going, we're not making any money.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
nothing.
It was nothing but crickets in that parking lot of the one big one that's like, goodness gracious, this is a beautiful facility. Not a thing.
Well, and I think at least for local, one of the things that we ran into, or one of the things I've run into for this weekend, unfortunately, I had an event, I had a wedding scheduled, a wedding anniversary, we'll call it, because they actually got married last year and they were throwing the reception this year, and they were gung ho. It was an indoor facility. And as MJ, knows with PA, it wasn't until like the end of April, very beginning of May, did we have light at the end of the tunnel for when indoor events could be, full capacity. Not worrying about anything with masks, just full numbers.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was the dad of the bride reached out to me and was just like, hey, he said, we still don't know what's going to happen here. And we can't have the wedding that we want. And they're already married. So if they can't have what they want, they don't want it.
Yeah.
And I said, I totally get it. And you're right. We don't know. And he said, so, we're going to cancel. We're going to cancel. And I said, I get it. I'm not going to hold you any, no hard feelings here. And he's, we came to an agreement on some money there. And when it was all said and done, wouldn't you know, it wasn't even 2 weeks later when we got word on when things were going to open and how they were going to open and what we could have done.
Are we at, Dan, you and I and other people in the chat are talking about our state? Because I was at networking Friday night after the gig I had that I posted pictures about. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. That I asked, are we at full capacity?
Yes.
They've lifted to 75% for sure. You know that.
Yes.
Okay, because that's what we were all going, I don't know.
Masks is the only thing that we have to wait, I don't know, another week and a half for or something like that.
Okay. I once they said, wear a mask if you're have gotten your shot and not, at that point there, I just stopped paying attention to what was going on. They could have come out a day later and said, everybody who, I don't know, whatever, you can't go outside, and I've been still going outside.
It was Labor Day or Memorial Day.
Memorial Day, yeah,
is when things opened.
Yeah, no. See, I know for a fact that Memorial Day was 75%. That's why I said that. The mask thing changed, but it was still at 75% because the one restaurant that I do stuff with still had to go to 75% on what they had. And their 75% could expand at that point because it was warm enough that they could open up the outside.
So they could have extra.
So perhaps maybe, it could have honestly been later that week they might have changed it. But I have not heard them say anything past that, and that was that weekend.
No, so you said that, and I'm just going to have to...
Yeah, I mean, anybody else out there in your states, is anybody else who has not been to 100% in venues, indoor venues?
I think our Canadian friends, and we have a few with us tonight, they're the ones that are going to be the short end of this conversation really quick. Because I think pretty much everybody is now, even California and New York, which were two of the big last...
New York is?
They were.
Yeah, New York's open. They open.
They're all open, yeah.
The big meme that I saw go around was that he opened it 72 hours before his daughter's wedding. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not. That was the meme that I saw. But yeah.
Interesting. Because I know they backed off. Like I said, the European countries were talking about there were several of the big clubs over in Europe that were supposed to open that can't for two more weeks.
Yeah.
So on May 31st, all COVID-19 restrictions related to gatherings, restaurants, and other businesses have been lifted.
So prior to that, they would have been in place there at that 75%.
So, interesting.
Maybe they chose to be extra cautious or give it an extra couple days. I don't know. But anyway.
Casino, so it might have been,
They might be playing a little harder there.
But the rest of the casino was past capacity because they were like half capacity for the longest time, but they were full amount of people. they never stop people from going in there. They're coming in there to spend money. And nothing against them. I mean, that's the way you make money. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it's interesting that certain parts, the restaurants apply themselves a little differently. You know, that was kind of interesting. You know, whether it be maybe that the not food and drug, but the food and alcohol maybe paid more attention to those kind of things. I don't know.
Going back to how we've seen some of our events change, you know, one of the things that I talked about the school dances and kind of how people hung around and stuff like that. Weddings, I feel, has kind of been almost a flip of that. So for example, the older crowd is leaving even earlier.
Yep.
Like I had people that left before, like you get into open dancing, you see the first dance, like you get all that open dancing, and it's an older crowd. They're like, I'm not going to dance. I really don't need to drink anymore. I saw the wedding. I'm going to give my hugs and kisses and I'm going to leave. Now, like they're going during dinner. Like they're not even waiting for that first dance or open dancing to start. They're coming up. Hey, thanks so much for having us. And they're out the door. And it's just like we're not taking hours for our dinner here. Like this is like what's going on. And that's one thing that I've noticed. The people that are staying, the people that are sticking around, like they're sticking around, they want to party. There's still that. You still got the camaraderie. I've still had arm in arm, swaying, singing, the whole 9 yards. All that is still kind of there. And it's almost kind of funny, for lack of better terms, that you have kind of almost like it prunes the people that would stand on the sides. Like in the past, you'd have a bunch of people that just kind of hang on the sides and just people watch for a while. And you'd have people that would be your dancers. And so the old question was always like, how do I pull these people in? Like, what do I have to do to make sure they're having a good enough time on the side, either pulling them to the floor or just really enjoying themselves where they are. They're just gone. Like the people on the side, they're gone. So you really only have your central people to kind of focus on. And really kind of make sure they're having a good time. So that's another thing that I've noticed has been a little bit different as the weddings have been there, is just how the people are sticking around, and then what those that do, they react like we're having a good time. Like we finally got out, we're opening things up and we're going hard.
Mm-hmm. I was noticed a similar trend with that. Additionally, with that is there's not been the amount of alcohol consumed. One of the events, they expected to go through 3 kegs, and they have done family events where they have gone through more than that, and they didn't finish off 1 keg at that one. This past week's wedding, the bar was never that deep. There was like 1 person at the bar. It was a flow of people coming and going. And it wasn't that they were a dry crowd. It's just there wasn't the heavy drinking. The floor was fairly clear of alcohol. And the ages of the people that you were mentioning, Dan, that are leaving, it's kind of interesting. It's the people who are probably like 55 through about 70. Usually you'd lose that 70 plus. They would be the ones gone anyway. But yet there seems to be this kind of coming down into the 50s. Age range that are booking out. They'll sit around, they'll talk and do their thing. The cocktail time, they talked and was milled around. But I don't even think we were done with the toast, and 3 or 4 tables were already gone out of 14 tables. So
I think it really becomes even, as we talk about what do we do for that? I mean, you're not going to change it. Like, it's out of your control. You might be able to, there's some people who say, oh, I could redo cocktails so that I make it more inviting. And so I make it so that they want to stick around. And there are little things, and you're definitely going to have some people that you're going to make those impacts with. But I think one of the things we also need to think about is how we can provide a better experience that doesn't involve a packed dance floor. Mm-hmm. All right. And so what I mean by that is not saying we don't focus on that, but so oftentimes as DJs, we go, I can get that dance floor rocking. And you can. But the problem is you're going to have, let's say, half of your audience who's going to be gone before you ever get a chance to show that side. and you could, and you're not going to have, I'm not going to get, I'm not going to get cocktail going like that. I could, but that's not the key. So what other things can you do? What other ways can you spin what you do to make that impact? And I think it becomes very important for us to really focus on those MC skills that we have, so that, use your DJ side, get the cocktail going, make sure your music's flowing. But when it comes to the master of ceremony side, make sure that you are polishing those skills for the introductions, for the connections with everybody, and making connections. There's so many grandmas, for lack of better terms, and in some cases it was grandma, who on the way out was like grabbing me by my arm. Honey, you did awesome tonight. I can't stick around for the dancing, but I enjoyed what I heard so far. Thank you. So, using those types of things are how we're going to make some of those impacts. Because again, some of that 55, it might be on the higher end of some of your couples, but that's going to be some of the cup parents. They're going to be saying, they're going to be talking, and they're going to hear about the dance floor if they want to hear about the dance floor. Mm-hmm. They're going to want that other side to, for their son, for their daughter, somehow to make some impact.
And I think one of the things is during that cocktail time of being able to pick music that will also appeal to that age group, and having that mix. Michael I had him spinning the cocktail time, and he had more people dancing during that cocktail time because all of a sudden he mixes in something from Michael Jackson or whatever, and does this did kind of a soft beat mixing thing during that time frame. People, he hit them right in their happy spot music wise, and I think that's going to be the music. I think the MC skills and doing things and engaging people via that is very important, but engaging them musically and not playing putting in the best of Kenny G type stuff.
Mixing. Sorry.
Yeah, and again, if you really get down to you're struggling with your music, you can always go and find really good quality music from some of the best artists around.
He didn't say it, so I don't have to drink.
Yeah, and you can load them up in Megaseg, and you'll be able to play them song after song after song. It'll be great.
Oh, see, nobody asked me about my shirt tonight. Not to change the subjects.
I thought you were trying to look extra dapper tonight. You're trying to.
Yeah.
Every single week, I find a shirt to match the topic.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't a T-shirt, so I thought
that's what it was. Things that changed. I'm not wearing a T-shirt.
He's got there's a theme to it.
But to be honest with you, this is what I normally go out and DJ with. I like dressing up, so I'm always in some sort of collared shirt. I'm a big fan of the button-down collars because I think it looks a little better, but I also have like the steel collar stays with the magnets and the collar lifters to look real good. That throws off when you're doing headphones and you have a solid collar, but that was all it was tonight.
But it looks different. Yeah, it looks good.
This is what we kind of have to. I mean, I've said this before. I'm the worst person to preach this, but with these things that we're heading into, no matter what, you have to be flexible to really shine and grow. And this is coming from a person that fails the most at being flexible. So, I don't know.
Music requests, in some ways, they haven't changed virtually at all from 2019. I mean, literally, virtually at all. You don't see any 2020 songs. I haven't seen any 2021 songs. That you're still seeing.
I get the new stuff for what I do, so I still have to play the new stuff.
Yeah, and obviously
school dances were classics.
Yes,
I mean, for them, classics. For us, maybe throwbacks.
2010, they're playing the old school.
Yeah,
but I mean, even
which is what it is. Yeah,
exactly. Even some of mid 2000s to the point where they were like 3. When it came out. Yeah, big time. I would say though, I've also had a few more within the last couple weeks where the requests have become a little bit more frequent, almost like they're more willing. Now, it could have been a different crowd. It could have, so it's kind of hard to judge it off of just a couple weeks. But I had some that were, before you'd occasionally get one here or there. I had some people coming up like before I even really started playing saying, hey, are you going to take requests tonight? So almost like they're maybe a little bit more comfortable doing that.
I'm wondering who it is that's DJing at these venues I'm at before I am, because I've had people at all the places are very timid. Like, hey, are you taking requests? Just like they're afraid to ask for something. And I'm like, yeah, what do you want to hear? You know,
Maybe you need to yell at them.
What's that?
Maybe you just need to yell at them, and then they won't come up and ask anymore. And then you won't have to deal with them.
I'm okay with them asking, but what I mean is they're doing it so timidly that there must have been someone who played there the week before who was going, no, go away, I'll take your request. It was like that sort of thing. It was a lot of politeness that I was like, oh, this is really nice. It's not the drunky-loos that are going, dude, I'm telling you, you play this, people are... No, it's not that. So I don't know. Maybe they're not. Maybe they aren't drinking as much like they
Yeah, man, that's why they're timid. They're not drunk.
Yeah, that could be, but no, I don't know. It's interesting because when John brought up the topic for this, I was like, I have nothing to say because mine are all the same. But there is a little difference in people, a little bit, and I have a feeling it's going to take all summer before, at least in my world, to things really feel and move, and people come in at the same time they used to and leave at the same time they used to. You know, because some venues are still really late starts, and some of them are earlies and nothing later. Like the last hour, people have left already. But I think people are still trying to find a rhythm in life on everything. So, and our world is part of that.
And I think you hit on the head by the end of summer, for those of us that are in an open situation. So I feel bad for Scrappa and Pascal and Karen and them, who are in different countries who are not there yet. But for those who are in areas that are open, I think by the end of summer, you're going to have that normalcy kind of start to settle in. I still think you're going to run into what you talked about in the very beginning, where some people are going to still pull back because they just spent, a bunch of money going on vacation because there was the first one they could do in 2 years. But I think in the general sense of things, you're going to see that feeling again, that things are normal, more commonplace.
Yeah.
I want to.
What?
Oh, go ahead, Jay.
I was just going to say, what would you guys want to see happen as this opens up? Things that maybe you've learned from the past that you're liking, or would like to see more of. What is positive has come from all of this in your worlds?
I like those small weddings. I like the little intimate weddings where you can go and you can engage and most of them their first names by the end of the night, because you can do something there that will be more meaningful than watching a room of 400 people drink until they won't remember what happened. So I enjoy that, and it's a change from those the past larger weddings, and I'm sure it'll get to some point where it'd be like, God, I'd kill for 200 people on a dance floor again, but it's just to be able to take them on a musical journey and do some cool things and get that looking like, oh, I haven't heard this song in so long, and they're singing along at the top of their lungs, type of thing. That's those are. I will miss that when that's no longer part of the equation.
I would love to have kind of the advanced planning to stick around. So what we saw was, it was very commonplace for me, 8 months out, 10 months out, people were still, reaching out, even potentially 6 months out. You didn't usually get too much less than that unless it was, shotgun wedding type of setup. But because of COVID pushing all the 2020s to 2021, I had a lot of 2021s like advanced planning, and I had even some 2022s who were just like, listen, we can't get in 2021, so we're moving. Like planning now for 2022. And I'm really enjoying that advanced notice, like the ability to almost in some ways give me more of the flexibility to pick and choose. Like you're reaching out at to a peak time, and you just told me the venue is, what, I like that venue if I have to like that venue, but otherwise I don't want to have to be there. So I might be busy that weekend, whereas, a year out or 10 months out, I still don't have anything for that weekend. Yeah, I can work that venue for that weekend,
mm-hmm.
And give us a chance to maybe pick and choose a little bit more. So I'd like to see that stick around.
Cool.
That sounds like such a
One thing before we wrap, guys, is as the music releases are, I have not, and MJ, you're a little more versed on this. I haven't seen anything on the charts and haven't had a lot of people who are they're like, oh my God, this is the hot song for summer, or here's a song that's going to have some staying power for our dance floor. If we continue this trend, we get into fall when we get back into school dances and such. What do you think are college kids coming back in the fall and high school kids coming back in the fall, and we're going to have these groups that want to have a party and dance because they didn't last year? What are we going to, I mean, is this going to be are we going to be retro for the next year and a half, 2 years?
It's this little thing, John, called a remix or a redrum. Good example is Leave the Door Open, Bruno Mars and
Anderson.
Pac.
Yeah. Not exactly a danceable song when it comes to like Dancey Dance. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's real laid back.
Very much so.
I personally would call it a slow song or a baby making music.
Yeah.
But I had caught a remix with a redrum, played it 2 Saturdays ago. Everybody who was dancing kept dancing. The guy who was running the sound's like, I don't like that. It's not the same as the original. I'm like, but look at the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're still dancing. And that's the key, is you can play anything if you find the right version that is not so far off the deep end that they don't recognize it and feel comfortable with it. That's one of the key things. They've got to feel comfortable hearing it played in this. Things have to happen in the same order as what they're used to. But if you pump it up a little bit, there's some things like that, and that's what I do with. I've had to do that so much with this music of the past year because it's all been super relaxing. You just find versions that bump a little bit. That's all you got to do. Be a little creative. Go hunt.
But I see and see, I understand kind of what you're getting at with that, of taking what we have and making it work. But I think one of the things that kind of with what John was saying was, especially for our wedding crowds, like that'll work. But you're not going to, like, the desire wasn't there before. Like they kind of went with it. Like for yours, you might have your regulars who would have heard that remix or redrum. No regulars.
I'm talking about places that I've been to for the first time, never seen the crowd before, come in and drop that remix, and they're like, oh yeah, I like this.
Right, and so they're vibing it, but they're not. I guess what my thought was, they're not coming in with the feeling of wanting it. So there's not a song of the summer, for example.
But what I'm meaning is they will ask for these slow ones, because I had 3 or 4 people.
Oh, okay, for that. I'm following you now.
And it's like, because there are hits, whether you guys think there are not. There's a lot of hits. Yeah. That's all you got to do, is that they are slow, kickback, laid back stuff. That's the kind of style that's going on right now. 68, 67, 72 BPM maximum. You just got to find some little creative stuff to make it bump a little bit, and you can draw your crowd out with them. Even though they say, "Can I hear such and such a version?" I mean, that version of the Bruno Mars song's perfect example. Has a little kick to it, and you can still get them their requests, but they're going to ask for them anyways. I mean, at least my crowd does. I mean, I got to stay up. I mean, there was stuff that they asked for that literally came on the charts on Tuesday, because Billboard chart comes out on Tuesday. Come out on chart Tuesday, Friday, they're asking for it. So you will probably have stuff, like you said, John, last summer, that they're going to be asking for this summer. So your crowd's a little bit different time-wise. Yeah. So, but the last summer stuff wasn't any faster. Mm-hmm. So you just have to be creative a little bit. My gut still tells me, well, 2 things. One is, if you're not on the Olivia Rodrigo, good for you. Get on that. And I'm not talking about MJ, but in your mobile audiences, and ignore the fact that it is talking about a breakup. It's kind of like the female anthem right now. Okay. Second thing though, my gut is telling me that there is music that was waiting for the situation that we are now. Absolutely.
And last year they held on to it because they knew there was not going to be club play, because they couldn't club play. And so that is on that pipeline that is waiting. So I am optimistic that we are not going to have just song of the summer. We are going to have songs of the summer. And that before we know it, it's going to be, oh my gosh, like everything's.
I can back that up with 2 facts, exactly what you're saying, Dan. 2 things. 1, look at all the movies they've held up.
Yeah.
Until now. Okay, that's number one. So that is a pattern of doing things. Number two, and this one's kind of interesting thing, about every 10 years, we get an uptake in like house and EDM and dancier stuff. 2000, it was the Sandstorm stuff. Then around 2010, 11, it was the Chainsmokers and stuff like that. Where are we at now? About 10 years later. So I would 100% not be surprised if after 4th of July, or even 4th of July weekend, we start hearing songs that have a pop to them, a little. What's her name? Dua Lipa with the like her sound, little disco-y, little dancey. I would not be surprised. I'm with you, Dan, 100%. High five, Dan. Does that help your picking music, John? No, just hold up till the 4th of July.
Exactly, 4th of July. Well, I was going to put in there that, Huey's been dropping some hits recently after March, so that.
Listen, Duran came out with a new track, so I mean, there's hope for Huey yet.
Yeah, no, that's so good music. There's good music on the way, so let's go with that. Joining Howie and the crew next at in about 7 minutes, 10 p.m. Eastern. Howie is going to be talking. Let's see, who does he have tonight? Chris Cox is going to be with him. Producer, remixer Chris Cox is going to be coming in, and they're going to be having some fun talking shop. And you can go to DJNTV.com/chill. Go into the chill room, shut your camera off, shut your mic off. They're going to record in kind of an interview chat time, and then after that, you guys can hang out and talk and turn everything back on and have a good time in the chill room at DJNTV.com/chill. Tomorrow night, Tuesday night with Ben Stowe is off because Ben is at the Marquee Show. And if you're in that area and you want to drive in, you can still go and check out the exhibit hall that I think is opening tomorrow, as well as the educational content opens up tomorrow. MarqueeShow.com if you want to get more information on that. They're going to have 3 days of education, a couple of days of exhibit hall, and we've got some pretty cool stuff that'll be on display at this year's show. So if you're in the area, to go drive to Chicago, check it out.
One of our sponsors of our show, Danny Max, has something he's debuting. If you haven't seen the teasers yet, just wait.
Excellent. Yes. Looking forward to it. Yeah, there's we've got a few of our sponsors that are made the show this year, so excited to see how that will all come together, how it will all be. So, and then MJ, are you on this Wednesday?
I have a very special guest coming on this week. I've been trying to work it out for weeks. Those of you who are interested in using or currently use Rekordbox, we have Pulse from Pioneer DJ is going to be in the house joining us.
Excellent.
Answering, and he is an absolute guru when it comes to Rekordbox. So, or he calls it a Rekordbox ninja. So whatever you want to do. But if you ever have any Rekordbox questions, and I'm sure he'll be able to answer some Pioneer ones too if you have some, but his specialty is on that. Join us Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time for DJ Pulse and bring your questions.
Excellent. Yeah, you'll have fun. He's a good guy. I've had him on a couple of shows and such. And when you're we're able to talk to just he or just Jay. Otherwise, when you have two of them, everyone's talking so fast that nothing gets said. So it's good. That'll be fun for you. Fun indeed. Otherwise, I think we're done. We got to wrap up and get on the way because DJNTV.com/chill. Check in with Howie in a few minutes.
So again, thank you very much for taking time out of your night to join us. For those of you that are not in the open areas, there is hope. And for the rest of us that are, if you were seeing different trends, hopefully you're going to see some of those other ones that are going to be more favorable to you coming out very soon. Have yourself a wonderful night. We'll see you next time.